All right, good morning, everybody. It is day 3 of the DPG 0.7 release fundraiser week, whatever you want to call it. Um, so when we left off yesterday, and also I'd like to thank all the sponsors and everybody that made this week possible. So if you look at where we left off yesterday, I believe I was trying to get I know we worked on histograms. Yeah, I would say that's where we had left off. So after hours, we got a few different things working. One was the scrolling control. So you now have programmatic control over being able to scroll. So, for example, let's see. Oh, don't have it on here. Obviously today we'll be working on the demo, so I'll be able to demonstrate it again. But anyway, the point is you can control where you're scrolling, and actually widgets now have a keyword called tracked, where if they're inside of a child or window with a scroll bar, you can set it to be tracked, and the scroll bar will find the item and stick to it, which can be useful in some cases for finding an item in a list of items. Another thing that we added was and how is everybody doing this morning? Make sure I'm recording this. Yeah. Another thing that we added was part of what made the logger, why we even made it a widget, aside from it does some pretty cool things, is that it's able to be a lot more performant than things that you could make with DPG. As far as you could display, thousands and thousands of lines without a performance hit, and most of that's due to what GUI has this thing called a clipper, and also their filtering widget. So what we decided to do was make those widgets so that you could use them not only to make your own logger and it'd be just as good as this one, but also so that you could use it in other cases. So we have this new filtering widget, which really isn't even a widget, so I wouldn't describe it as that. It's more of a component. But the whole point is that the way it works is it has no visual representation at all. It's a container, but like I said, it's kind of a pass-through container that doesn't actually do anything as far as visually. And all widgets now have a keyword that you can use called filter key. And what you do is you put all your widgets inside of a filter set, and you give them filter keys, and all you do after that is you can attach it to whatever widget you want. But basically, if you set the value of the filter set, that's what it'll filter based on. So in this case, you could see what I did was I created an input text widget, and the callback, I'm setting the value of the input text widget. So like I said, if you set the value of the filter set, that's what it'll filter based off of. And it filters things based off, I know I keep saying that a lot, based off of the filter key of the widget. So for instance, sorting these buttons right here, or not sorting, filtering these buttons, I happen to make the label the same thing as the filter key, which is just the index, but that allows you to filter things, and it's pretty much immediate. And that's because of it being immediate mode underneath, it just doesn't even draw those items. It's already having to go through the list every frame to decide whether or not to submit it to be rendered. So all the filter does underneath is just, when it gets to that item, it checks if it passes the filter, and if it doesn't even draw it. So there's zero performance hit on it, because you're already paying for it to begin with. So that's one of the new widgets that got added last night. The other one is the clipper, and that, you can see here, doesn't seem to be making a difference, but it actually is. What it's doing is it's only drawing item 36 through 49. Not drawing, it's only processing those items. So it's not even attempting to draw item 12, for example. So, and that's part of what allows you with the built-in logger widget that we had, that allows you to display as many items as you want, and it doesn't seem to slow down, and that's because it's not processing all those items, only items you can see. So why did we add all that? Aside from being really cool features, everybody's asked that the logger become more advanced, and with that being the case, we started looking at it, and we had two options. We could either make the logger much more advanced on the C++ side, and by doing that, it's kind of a weird widget in that it's really a composite of other widgets, and it can't be highly customized, like as far as the way the looks go. So what we've decided we're going to do is instead, now that we've added all the widgets that comprise this logger, we're going to remake it. We're going to remove it from the C++ side, and we're going to remake it on the Python side. And that would give us a lot more freedom. It could be object oriented. You can do whatever you want with it, and you can customize it as much as you want. We'll just at first just make it work like the old one worked, but as time goes on, we'll obviously keep adding to it, and people could just use it as a template. They can go grab our code and modify it to be however they want. They can add as many log levels. They can do whatever they want. Yeah, so that was the point of that. And again, this Clipper widget's really useful for a lot of different things. One of the users had, Derek, had an app that displayed a ton of images, and you could pretty much scroll through them and stuff like that. This would help in that case. It only works properly for widgets that are all the same height. So if you're displaying a lot of the same things, text, buttons, images, that's when you would use this. So anyway, that is where we left off yesterday. And then the other thing was that I started to do and did not finish was giving callbacks. Instead of right now, you have sender and data by default that gets sent through, and sometimes data is used by the application, and then you don't have any way of sending your own data through. Now there's three arguments. There is sender, user data, and app data. And obviously you don't have access to do anything with app data other than receive it, but you will always have access to user data. So I was in the middle of adding that last night, and that's probably the first thing I'll do this morning. And then other than that, let's see what else is on the schedule. So I said the logger rewrite on the Python side, finishing the demo. Yeah, it's a bunch of small stuff, no features today so far, but there's a chance that we may come across something and realize we need it. So, any questions? Guess not. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is finish the app user data situation, and then we're going to go into doing the logger rewrite. So, if you do have any questions, just ask and I'll try to answer them. Okay. So the way we want this to be is app data goes first and then user data. And so today's mostly going to be tedious, other than once we get to the demo, today's going to be mostly tedious stuff. Not going to be seeing too many cool things added, but you will get to see some cool use cases of 0.7 once we get there. And might as well, while I'm going through every widget anyway, go ahead and add the drag and drop stuff. and the filtering and all that. Joystick support. For July. Possibly. Let's see what PyGui has in terms of that. I don't think that would be too hard. I'm sure it's just, I mean, it doesn't really matter. You can pass straight through, so nothing to do with PyGui. But yeah, we could add something like that. Have to look into it. I've never actually played around with that. Where my music at? Right. Color button. So now that we gave you guys access to the clipper and the filter, really think that's almost a, to be honest, that's probably almost 100% mapping now, plus obviously plus a lot on top of PyGui. I mean, there may be some small things we've missed, but really think that covers everything. I know that puts us ahead of any other wrapping I've found so far, by far actually. Like with drag and drop support and all that we've added, pretty sure that completes it. John, have you been watching the streams any so far? Okay, so you haven't seen probably a lot of the new features that got added in the last few days. It's been a lot. We added, shoot, I want to say a bunch of stuff that you probably requested too. One of the good things about us putting splitting in the app data and user data too is that if we weren't using it before, then we can add something to it, and I think everybody would be pretty happy if if for the callbacks for widgets like track, like all the value-based widgets, if we actually go ahead and just send the value through. If we do that, then you guys don't even have to call get value inside of the callback, which not only is a little bit of performance boost, but it also is it simplifies things a little bit. That's performance boost because it doesn't lock the mutex that you lock whenever you call any of the DPG commands. So it may do that. What exam do you have? Is it software, or I mean like programming related, or it's a different course or class? Render callback is absolutely axe, yes. But, I mean, if you want render callback, the event loop's open now to users, so that's, you could still get the same functionality. And to be honest, a lot of the reasons people would be using it, you really don't need to anymore. A lot of the times it had to do with polling and things like that, that, to be honest, doesn't have to be done anymore. Because there's callbacks for pretty much every specific action that you used to would have polled for. You know, if you want to know when the A button's pressed, then just set a callback for that. If you want to know when this widget's hovered, you could just set a hovered callback on that widget. So that allows you to do is you don't have to do as much polling. And again, performance boost because you're not having to call DPG commands every frame, which lock the mutex and slow things down. So yeah, axing the render callback was, in my opinion, a pretty good move. There is still a visible callback for widgets, which kind of would act like a rendering callback. If that widget is visible, then run. And you know, for instance, another reason that you would want the render callback is to update a plot live or something like that. But even if you weren't looking at the plot, it still had to update. But if you set a visible on visible callback to a plot, then it would update every frame, and then if you weren't looking at it, it wouldn't. So it's actually, again, much better than the old system. So yeah, good, because I did not like the render callback. I can't remember why we added it.
Morning, dude.
Good morning. Trying to remember where I was at.
Morning, John. Other John. John, no.
I'm in the middle, Preston, of switching all the callbacks to use the new app data, user data sender, which obviously means touching every freaking widget. But after that, I already told everybody update that there's not gonna be really any new features today. The only new thing really is switching the logger to Python. Other than that, it's mostly demo, documentation, testing day.
I was finishing up that ellipse thing, so let's see how that went last night. I think it's faster to actually just draw a circle and do a transform on it, like just apply scale, and it works. Got some code of someone that did it last night, and it worked pretty well.
You know what else I was thinking? That reminds me, with the ellipse thing, is it possible to just, like you said, draw a circle, or even just use a texture of a circle and just scale the texture?
I mean, that's
the same thing. Yeah, that's true.
Except you won't be able to control the segments if you're doing the scales, and it'll look ugly when you scale it.
Yeah.
Or if they ever put zooming, it's great. I mean, it works great. You're just using a polyline, so, and then I'll just be able to use polyfill. I saw, okay, and I haven't used it yet, but in IMGUI, convex polyfill.
We need to add those
polyfill
because it only does convex. But we do need to add. I thought I wrote that down. That actually you should probably
missing
do
like
that.
arc, or like there's a bunch of stuff that like.
Wait, arc. Let me.
Yeah, like technically, like circles, like his circles, you can put in arc starts and arc stops.
Are you talking about the path ones? Because let's try not to do the paths. Those are just completely different API. Let me see real quick.
No, that's all a drawing API.
I know that, but he has 2 drawing APIs. That's what I'm trying to see. Yeah, you're talking about the path arcs?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, those are the. I wasn't using any of those. Those are the. What do you call that? Shit, what is that called?
Okay.
Anyway,
so what I saw in his code.
Okay.
Is he uses because his circle is just an arc. Like all it is an arc with a start at 0 and a stop at 2 pi. So his drawing API, the one that we're currently wrapping, is actually just using all that stuff underneath it.
Right. The only difference is that's stateful. I mean, it says that there. Which is fine, but it's really weird because I don't know if Java FX used to have one like that.
Yeah,
and I tried
path
using
2. Like it's 1 to 2 to 3, and so that's the same way we do our polyline. Like it's not gonna make a difference. You know what I mean?
Well, the only difference with the only difference with his polygon is it's only convex. It won't work for concave ones, which is why we added that our generic one. But that reminded me that I do want to go back and add his to his convex one because it is obviously way more. Convex is way easier to do and it's a lot more performant, and that's why everybody has convex, but not many people have generic polygons.
I'd like to add, yeah, it'd be faster. So we could probably do like some tests to see if it's convex or not, and then use his.
Well, no, I'm not even saying do that because you can't even test that. Not easily. That would cost much. I'm just saying like allow users to use the generic one, and then if they know that they're doing convex, they just use the convex one, knowing that it's more performant.
Kind of like how you could wrap Nonagon. Like
I don't remember why, but you could add that too. I think at the time
I think it was similar to something else, and we just chose not to wrap it.
Well, it's because we have Polygon or Polyline.
Well, he has Polygon also right there. Oh, not Polygon. He has Poly.
Yeah. which is I
So
think
I guess that's polygon is not ngon, except we don't wrap it with ngon.
Pentagon's like if you want a hexagon or a pentagon, but yeah, we're missing that.
I'd
And
like to
then
put arcs in there because if we don't put arcs, how else are you gonna draw an arc, right? So I'd
the
like to use
only
his.
we could do that. I'm not opposed to it. The only thing I was gonna say is the only thing we have to keep up with is that's a stateful one, so it's
No, I'm not using that. I like okay. Let me
which
say I
arc
did
is that?
ellipse. What I used the ellipse for was the way I did is I went into his stateful and looked at how he's calculating his arc, grabbed his arc equation, and actually
Mhm.
I ended up not an arc, his circle equation. I ended up using a circle equation to calculate a circle, and then just squish it either in the H or the W, which is just your height or width. So for the arc, what I was going to do was go in and grab his arc equation, which is literally just a circle equation, which I'm already using it. And so eventually maybe I just pull it out instead of using it 3 different places.
Yeah, if you're doing
And
that,
then
that's
just
fine. I was just
yeah,
saying not
I'm
to
just
use
I'm
the
basically
path stuff.
just using his equations.
The other one,
And then
sure
I'm actually
saw.
shoving them into our polyline, right? And so if it's a polyline, technically it'll be the same thing as an arc. You can just control the segments through polyline.
Wait.
Like I'm using add polyline to draw my ellipse.
Oh, okay, I thought you were saying you're using R at polygon. Or
Just calculate the points, and then I'm going to check if the points are dirty to recalculate them, and then I'll be able to. So it's going to be pretty efficient too.
All right,
It looks good right now.
I'm sure you saw 2 versions ago too that he changed the Bezier curve and split it into 2 Bezier cubic and quadratic. So we need to do the same. We need to get rid of our Bezier curve and make it into 2 because he's deprecating. I think it's already deprecated, but I think the next version is pulling it out.
None of this is going to break backwards compatibility though, so we don't. And it wasn't stated on 07, so we don't have to do this right now. We could just focus on the.
No, it will though, because if we do the Bezier curve,
Bezier curve, yes.
If we do the
But
Bezier
like
curve,
arcs and stuff.
Oh yeah, none of that matters. But the Bezier curve for sure, we can do that.
Okay.
And convex
Yeah,
polygon filled, I think we need to add that because most of the time that is our case. If you remember, the reason we added the generic one was for connections.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, you don't care about generic. But
yeah, it's awesome to have, and it's great to have.
Right. Cool.
I just know that it's that whenever we're drawing the polygons that were filled, and we chose to do it with our fill method, I think that's why, if you remember it, when we zoomed in, it got really slow because we're drawing like 1,000. We're drawing literally lines for every
I knew it could be
pixel on the
optimized,
screen.
yeah.
So it was when we would zoom in on the graph, the thing would just start bugging out. So
Yep, I do remember that.
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna get back to the ellipse thing. I wanted to put this. So like part of the ellipse thing was it had to be able to rotate. So I'm gonna add that in, like a rotation for it or something like that.
And a quick question: when you're doing all that, do you still have the inputs people would expect for
Yeah, width, height, it's center, width, and height. I looked at 2 different APIs last night, and one of them was you draw a rectangle and it just puts an ellipse inside of it, and the other one was you just put a center point in and then you do a width and a height from the center point, right? Yeah. So it's just like basically a rectangle, but I don't know. It doesn't matter to me which way we use. Do we just draw a rectangle and then do an ellipse that fills inside of it, or do we do a center of the ellipse and do a width and a height and then a rotation?
No, I'm fine with that. It doesn't matter to me. I was just wanting to 100% make sure that it at least resembled what people would expect, which sounds like you got that. So awesome.
I don't know what they expect. I guess I should look at.
Well, I'm saying like it'd be weird if it was like.
Layers.
I don't think they have ellipse. Maybe they do. I don't know. But it'd be weird if you put in a height and a curvature or something.
Yeah. I'm not making sure I'm not being weird. Can't avoid that though. Sometimes you're always weird.
But we could just be like Java and you'd be like, you know what? The user, fuck that guy.
Yeah, and then take all of our hard open source work and make it private.
And now you have to pay us too. Just gonna switch to private.
What are Tkinter primitives?
There's so much stuff to test. Dude, in the last 3 days, the amount of stuff that's been added, I'm just dreading the amount that's about to have to be tested as soon as I finish this thing.
Fishy. I'm kind of tired. I stayed up way later than I wanted to. I stopped working on this at like 12:30, but I ended up playing some games with some friends. bit later.
Yeah, I was only on until I think 11. That's right.
I'll probably get a nap during lunch.
I'm just hoping that the baby doesn't give Rachel too hard of a time, because I know that'll make it
Dude, that music's so loud, even on 1%. I'm just gonna turn it off.
What music that?
Oh yeah, that's so distracting.
Java is trash. I agree. In another universe, that's what Python or what DPG would have been written in, because one of the early prototypes was. But we had a come to Jesus moment and realize that was not the way. Mostly because they pulled Java FX out of the standard and then also started trying to make people pay and all that junk. And at that point, we just said, screw it. Not worth it. Some of these I don't know if they're going to work. Just drag and drop.
Oh, they have an oval.
Customs.
See, there, the Kinzer's oval is just, you just draw a rectangle. You just give rectangle coordinates.
Okay.
I'll switch it to rectangle coordinates. It looks like that's what, if that's what you can. So you give like an x1, x2. Man, it's an early morning.
That's a what?
For me. It's such
Early
an
morning?
for me right now. Yeah, I was so tired. Okay, I'm gonna bed till 3. Staying up late after your RTL you on today. Charlie's on Discord.
I think he's still sleeping. Like
Man, we gotta
their
beef with the
time, their
stream.
offset is odd. Dude, I'm telling you, people are gonna do some weird stuff with this filtering. I bet you can almost use it to be a layering system. Like there's like if you think about it, if you didn't have layers and you did all the draw commands and you just added a layer as the filter, then you could have a selection and just set the filter to different things, and it would actually act the same way as the layering system. So I'm excited to see what people do with the some of these new things being added. Even things like the node attribute, like you could use filtering with that, but why? I have no idea. Same thing with a node itself. But again, I don't know if that's gonna work. Filter what machines you want to connect to. You can use filtering for pretty much anything. As of now, there's some of these custom widgets and other third-party libraries. We're gonna have to again test some of these features, because again, I don't know how they're gonna play with things like drag and drop. So definitely got to test all of that. Good morning. We were just talking about when you were gonna get on. So I don't know if you heard us, Marco. Did you just get on, Marco? You weren't on before this, right? You didn't hear the stuff we added last night after hours. Oh, just go ahead. I'll check the. All right. No, I mean it's just quick. We added a the filter. Sorry, the logger, our logger widget. The reason it was special was because it used. I mean, special in the sense from the Python standpoint was that you couldn't make something as fast as that in Python, and that's because we were utilizing some things in GUI that helper stuff that he has that we never exposed, which are things like the filter system and uh, the clipper. But we found a way last night to fit all that into the API to work really good, and basically there's nothing special about the logger anymore. So as soon as I'm done doing what I'm doing now, I'm going to start pulling the logger out, and it's going to be rewritten on the Python side using those features. So not only will that make it easier to work on, it will make the widget make a little bit more sense. And if you want to customize it, you can easily do a pull request, or you can just copy the code and modify it however you want and make your logger whatever you want it to be. But yeah, and you can use those filter and clipper for all kinds of other stuff, which when we start doing the demo, I'll show that. So, and as far as right now, what we're doing is we went ahead and split callback to have all callbacks to have three arguments, up to if you want to use them, and that's the user data, app data, and sender. To come back to this one, I don't know if I can filter that. Be filtered. I don't know if you can drag and drop. Track. Come back to that. Hopefully no new features today, unless there's just something we come across that we just can't live without. After this stuff's added, we're going straight to demos and things, which I'm sure we'll catch bugs while we're doing that. So it's not going to build, but I'm trying to find everywhere I missed some stuff. That's definitely a error there, but it's not the error. Everybody pray that the kid treats my wife good today, so I don't get grounded and have to pause the stream and go help. Scythonizing. Never really used Scython. Anybody wants to explain that, I would love to hear. I mean, I know it's like an optimized, just-in-time compiler or something version. I have no idea. I know it's performance related. Drag single. I'm telling you, for the goal you're trying to reach, John, you honestly should just write the whole thing in C++. Anybody have any cool plans this weekend? Other than watching my boring ass do this stuff? Viewport. I gotcha. So I'm guessing it compiles down, however we want to call it, to C++, and then I guess actually compiles to C++ and runs. I have a diploma request. You've said that a few times now, and I have no idea what a diploma request is. Is that some European thing? What am I looking for? Custom. Must be. I've never heard diploma request. I'm looking for knob. Forgive my ignorance. Yeah, I'm used to hearing thesis. That's what I just assumed it was something like a thesis. Um, yeah, that's what I was assuming. I don't know if we told you guys that we actually dropped out of me and Preston both dropped out of getting our masters for DPG. But to be fair, I was in petroleum engineering, so at least to me, I was not a big fan of that. Now, since compiling DPG, it's hitting the stream. Wait, what does he mean? Is it still slowing down the stream whenever I compile? Man, so many of these. This is why I use a ton of macros whenever I know I'm gonna have to be changing stuff all the time like this. Plot legend.
Back.
No, I didn't know you left.
So, someone said they wanted a rotatable ellipse. No one else has a rotatable ellipse. That's probably the reason
No.
why. So do we give and then add this?
No, I think what we should do, hear me out, is we add, don't add any of that, but we add the ability to rotate a layer. And if you want to rotate, because that's something we don't have at all right now, is the ability to rotate at all. So rotating
Rotate a layer.
Yeah, that would be nice. So if you want to rotate ellipse, put on a
Should
layer.
rotate any drawable.
Yeah, the only problem is there is one drawable, maybe two, that can't be rotated right now, and that's the textures. As far as I know, I don't think those can be rotated, and then also I don't think.
But if it's part of a layer, it could be rotated.
Well, no, what I'm saying is I don't think GUI supports that at all. I'd have to check, but I really don't think that's there. So you might have to low level do that ourselves. I mean, in the end, you're just drawing to a quad, but we're letting GUI handle that. But we'd have to take that over. And that's the only reason I think I avoided it last time, the rotation stuff.
Morning, Lou. It is Preston. I
like to call Preston Jarvis. You can just hear him. You
hear
can't
me?
see him. You just hear him.
Yep. No one's ever seen me but a picture. That's all I am.
That's okay. Towards the third phase of DPG, we'll introduce you as a superhero.
I just don't know how to link videos to have them on the same screen. To be honest, I don't. It's too much. Too fancy.
Who said that? Oh, was that in Discord or something?
Stream chat.
Preston is just a voice behind DPG.
This DPG's true consciousness is what it is.
DPG turns 1 year old in 3 days? Or was it the 7th? I can't remember what day it was. Actually, now I want to know. It was on the 7th? Okay. Yeah. So, my birthday is on the 8th. Told my wife for my birthday I just want 07 to be out. Yep. That is true. My birthday, I just want 07 done. Ah, crap. No, that's right. That's right. And Preston, if there's any other improvements you can think of to the logger, I mean not the logger, the drawing API, shit, add them.
All right, so if PyQt5 does it too, we're just gonna do x1, x2, y1, y2 instead
Sounds
of doing
good to
like
me.
the height of the center.
What other things do they have in their drawing API? Is there anything anyone else listening knows that we're missing? I mean, 07 has all the same stuff 06 had, but we do have layers now. What else do we add, Preston?
PyQt has circle, field circle, half circle, line, horizontal line, arrow, arc.
We have arrow,
curve, arc and curve, ellipse, rectangle, filled rectangle, triangle, filled triangle, gradient.
We
polygon
could add
image.
gradient.
Gradient could just be a texture, but yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Well, PyGui I think has a gradient one. We just don't use
polygon image. That's their painting API is what it's called.
Painting API.
Is gradient like the brush thing on Paint, MS Paint? No.
No, gradient's like it just goes from one color to another. But I thought
it'd be tough, but we could figure out some way to do like, you know, how, like you have brush strokes in like Microsoft Paint where you click and it's like it gets denser towards the center and then fades out with like yeah. But that's
you'd have to do some texture magic for that.
There
Oh, it's add rectangle filled multicolor. That's the one that we don't have that you could do gradients with. So you could add that. It's sitting right next to rectangle filled. That would be cool.
We'll change input to do ellipse and then I'll do that. Oh, I still got to go through like optimize ellipse. I don't want it to recalculate every frame.
Date picker. Does anybody watching have any additional requests for the drawing API? Vertical separator for the drawing API or just generic widget? Generic widget. Well, let me see about that real quick. How tall would the vertical widget or the vertical thing be? Would we want it to scale the screen the same way the separator does, or would we want it to just the line height?
Oh wait, it's still got to fill.
When possible, I would integrate that to things as options. And the only reason I was bringing that up is it would have to be custom regardless of what we did. And the truth is that we'd be using the same API that, now that we've pretty much exposed all of ImGui, plus a ton, but exposed all of ImGui, we're working with. Yeah, I agree. Alan would definitely have some input. But since we're working with ImGui to make all the stuff, some of the same, like literally the same options, anything we do as far as that's not already a widget or doesn't really need some high performance stuff, technically the Python side can do. I mean, we would implement a vertical separator by creating a drawing or adding to the draw list just a vertical line, which is the same thing you would do on your side. So I don't know.
Yeah, actually, I am all favor for adding or some kind of rotation thing and maybe even a scaling thing, because what you don't want to do is do transforms on the Python side and have to have them recalculate the quadrants of their rectangle and then upload a new rectangle every.
Yeah, the whole point's we can cache.
Yeah, saying if they're doing. Well, I'm saying if it's animated, like if they want to animate a drawing and they want to have think about if they want to have a rotating that loading circle.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have to update new points every frame 60 times a second, which is really fast. Otherwise, they could just do some kind of for instance, they could just do like a rotate, and instead of uploading new points, they would just tell us to rotate their points.
Yeah, and I think the layer is a perfect place for that. You just you rotate. Is that what you're suggesting? Rotating the layer?
If that's how we want to do it, that's fine. I just think everything should be able to be rotated and scaled.
Yeah.
Because it's easier for us to apply a scale than them, because they'd have to go through every point in their polygon and apply a scale to it, and then upload a new polygon.
Right. No, I absolutely agree. Scaling and rotation should be done on our side. Change the lines. But again, it's where do you do that per item, or do you do that to a set of items? Like, is there any benefit of either or?
Modify draw command would apply to a drawing item, not a layer. So you'd have to do a new command set for a layer. It would be like edit config, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I guess you could apply it to every item. I was just thinking that'd be a lot more duplication.
It feels like it would be, because
and then if
each
you wanted
item
to rotate
draws differently, so you'd have to rotate points, or maybe you have to change the inputs to get DimeGUI to do the rotation right.
And also, if you wanted to rotate all the items, again, you'd have to loop through all the items, and again, locking the mutex for every single one, every DPG command. So if you had to go through 50 items on the drawing API, or like on your drawing, and rotate them, you'd be locking that mutex up to 50 times.
It's almost like you want to do both. What if you don't want to rotate everything on a layer?
Well, then you just put one item on a layer and rotate it. But yeah, I see what you're saying. You could do it either. Or, yeah, actually, I agree with you. It should be, every item should be able to be rotated. and then you can either rotate the item or rotate the layer. Yeah, I agree with that. And
Some
all
items
the
won't
layer
be able to be
rotation.
rotated like circle.
Yeah, you know how like right now when the group works, if you set a width, it just pushes the width and draws all the items and then pops the width. Well, I think layers should work the same way. You can either set the rotation of an item or set the rotation of the layer, and then it would just push and pop, basically a transform.
Could the layer be about a point and the rotation of the item be about the item's center, or whatever we call the item center?
It needs to be an option. I think always needs to be an option.
Dude, then you got to imply like a degrees and a center of rotation, and then it feels like it's a new function.
Well, if you go look
inside
at
of keywords.
if you go look at our gauging system software, we already did rotation and we did it that way as well. Like you could translate from a point or just the default, which is
correct. But in our
center.
gauging system, that's a static function. That's just a static method that's just inside of the class for drawable. So for here, we can't do that. So it's got to be keywords on every item for center of rotation and rotation in degrees.
Well, no, I was suggesting
radians.
I was suggesting actually a special function, like actually adding an extra function for rotation. I don't think config, because you're right. I don't like when you have to config multiple things to get whatever effect you're doing. But a quick question: is per item not enough? It would be in in other scenarios, but the reason per item is not good enough for us is because every DPG command, we have all the Python stuff happening on one thread and we have the rendering happening on another. And soon as the render thread is about to go into actually drawing all the items, it locks a mutex. And the issue is every time that you call a DPG command, we assume that you're modifying something that the renderer needs or else you wouldn't be doing it. So we lock a mutex for every DPG command. So you'll notice in 07 that there is a few plural versions of every command because we realize when you have a ton of items that actually starts to matter. When you're trying to sort, like the way the table sorting works is when the user presses sort, we don't automatically do anything for you. We just run the callback that you've given us. And the problem is if you had even just 100 items, let's say on a table, which isn't that much at all, and you want to sort, well, what's the first thing you're probably going to do? You're going to grab the value of all 100 items. You're going to run a loop and say for all these, and you're going to store them. You're locking that mutex 100 times potentially. There's I forgot what that's called, not deadlock, but either way, it starts to slow down the frame rate. Yeah, and
we got to remember that guy who uploaded the video to DPG a few weeks ago who did fractals, and he was drawing he was basically programmatically drawing fractals with lines, and he was ended up with hundreds of 20K, like
yeah. My point is that you end up with basically a deadlock. Surprisingly, it doesn't do a deadlock because what we noticed was as you get 100 items and stuff like that, because it would start all right. It doesn't do a deadlock because they're running in a queue. So even though you've called it 100 times, it's not actually going to execute the second one. But the point is that it locks, it does its calculation, the render loop sits there with the lock, waits for it, it switches to the render, and then it actually pops off the queue and goes to the next one. So it doesn't deadlock, but it takes place over multiple frames. So what would happen is you would go to sort the table, and you would live see it sorting. It would actually like sort in front of your eyes, and that was just with 100 items. So what we decided to do was, rather than have just get value, I'll just leave it for the video on demand. Rather than just get value, we have get values. So you have both now, and the whole point there is it only locks the mutex once. Yeah. So as far as the drawing API goes, it's the same thing. If you have 50 items, ideally you'd like to be able to just loop through and rotate all 50 items, but that's going to lock the mutex 50 times. So instead, it would be better to also have the option to do it all in one batch, and that's where I was thinking rotate the layer. But
yeah, this kind of follows AutoCAD. Create a layer, create a group or a block, and then you rotate the block or group. It's very nice.
Yep. So that's what I suggest we go towards, is do both. And obviously all the rotate of a layer is going to do is run each individual draw command's rotation function. and translation and all that. But we can add that after if you want, Preston. We don't have to add. I feel like there's going to be a lot of edge cases we're going to have to figure out, like I said, with textures and text, because those things don't rotate properly.
There's gonna have to be some really big function that looks at it, determines what type it is, because like some of these draw commands contain lists of points. Some of them just pass straight through to IMGUI, so you'd have to rotate the raw like center versus like a list of points. Like it's gonna be.
Yeah, we actually used to have it. We didn't have that rotation, but we did have scaling and panning and all that. And then people complained, so we got rid of it.
The lesson for that is don't complain, or we'll just take it out.
Yeah, complain too much and we'll just take it out.
Yeah, and complaints lead to better stuff.
All right, so finish that. Still not done. All right. I'm going to change one other thing. While we're at it, might as well change callback data to user data to match the new argument. Just call it part of the discussion of transform interpretation. So rather, that might be a good idea.
Just transform the layer, but name a
Well,
certain
just
item in
he's
the
saying
layer.
just have the transform. So I mean that includes all the information you need from scaling, rotation, and translation all in one, and just give it access to that. And obviously we can wrap it on the simple side, so people see it as rotation and scaling and all that. Is that what you're saying? Just to actually store just a generic transform?
Matrix. Yeah.
I like that idea. I mean, that's how we do it on the rendering side.
Okay. That would work if everything was points, but some of these, when they come in, well,
it would still be the same. The only spot that this, then you have the local object transform, and then, Ooh, that's a even better.
Well, that's if we knew that everything's points, right? Some things we don't know their locations because he calculates, like for circle, all you know is a radius and a center. But obviously, you're not rotating a circle. But that's just
circle,
for example. I know, but I'm just using that as an example. So for something else, like
I mean, everything in there except for text and the textures, we give points. So all we do is rotate the points before they come in, or we run them through the transform.
correct. Yeah, and especially if I switch this from the center to width and height to
But he
X and Y. Yep.
No, but he made a very good point that I didn't even consider is if you actually let the transforms accumulate, so every item has its own transform, and then layers can have their transform, and obviously you can do layers of layers of layers. You can make it so that when the rotation happens, it actually just accumulates it. So that would be way more beneficial.
And you don't have to define the transformation.
Well, you just leave it as
whatever
identity, as yeah, like you said, you just leave it as identity by default. Um, that's what we need to do, because then you can basically build up a node graph kind of. Yeah.
And if it works well
That's
for the
the
Python
answer.
side, does that work well for like 20,000 items? I mean,
it would work the same. You already that's not going to be an issue.
yeah, the multiplication still happens on the.
I mean, on our renderer we're doing that, and we're doing that on the CPU side too.
Yep, that's true. Yep, we're just
building the transform. We're not doing the actually applying it to all the points on the CPU. We do that on the GPU, but still, for them that's a huge boost.
Mm-hmm. It does make sense.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That is what we're gonna do.
I don't like circles anyway.
That is what we're gonna do. We'll just have to explain that right now. Textures.
Just draw an ellipse that is mapped by a square. We'll get rid of circles. Because then you'll have a x1, y1, x2, y2, and you'll be able to actually transform that, even though it's going to rotate about its center and do nothing. Unless you want to rotate about a point.
Anthony, have you been watching the streams all week? Yep. I agree. I think this is the way we need to go.
Man, jumped in at a great time.
Yeah, so
especially talking about the drawing stuff, which you're using.
Yeah, we've added a ton of stuff this week. I don't know if you pretty much everything that you requested as well. If you go to the repo projects fundraiser week, you can see. I mean, we got the drag and drop support, widget event handlers, which is the per widget you can attach on hover on all of the different state items, and also global event handlers, which key presses and all that. But now you can register it per key, and you can actually register as many as you want for the same key and for the same actions and all of that. So all of that got in. Access to the scroll bars. Added a filtering widget and a clipping widget, and a bunch of other stuff. But definitely been a very productive week. Three days so far, I guess. We do have all the videos up on YouTube too. So if you did ever want to go back, I wouldn't suggest it, but if you did want to go back and watch 8 hours of somebody programming,
I wouldn't.
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't either.
Proof that we did it is what's up there.
Yeah, I agree. We probably would just skip straight to the 4x4 transform, since we're already doing that in our other systems.
At least in the C++ side for sure. Then on the Python side, you can always wrap it to a 3x3 if you really wanted to.
Well, I mean, we would wrap it to, and in terms of what they use, we would just have a wrapping for like set rotation and stuff like that. I don't think we don't want a lot of users, especially beginners, aren't going to want to have to go learn how to work with matrices. They're going to want to just say, I want to rotate this 30 degrees. And no,
Yeah.
thanks for the funding. For those that don't know, he did a large portion of the funding. So we really appreciate that. And Marco did another large portion. Yeah, no, I know.
Okay. Everything is apparently it's support.
Let's see. As far as new features, most of the new features are in now. Just doing a little bit of tweaking, and then the rest of today is supposed to be mostly demoed and testing and docs. So it'll be easy to add any wrappers. Yep. True. Agreed.
It's buggy when there's only one C++ side function. You know, it's fun. An ellipse with 4 segments is a diamond.
That is true.
And an ellipse with 4 segments, that is a perfect circle, or a square is a square. If it has a width and a height of 10, 4 segments, you get a square. Cool stuff.
Right. Everything seems to be working.
Man, Alan's gonna go crazy when he sees this new drawing stuff.
We also will rebuild MS Paint. You actually probably could do something pretty similar to it. What's it doing? And since you just hopped on, Anthony, I don't know if you want me calling you Anthony or Kuchi. I don't know how to say that.
Type out a pronunciation so we know how to say it from now on, because we actually literally stumble over that username all the time. Uchi. I don't know. Uchimara.
But yeah, we actually added all the stuff that made the logger special. So now a user can make a logger that's just as good as the logger that's built in. So we're going to be rebuilding the logger on the Python side now.
Oh, the logger's going to be beautiful.
So for users that don't like it or just really want to modify it or go drastically different, they can make their own logger. They can take our logger, copy and paste it, and modify it however they'd like. Are layers flat or can they be hierarchical? You just call me Anthony. Can you have child layers that press? Yeah, as of right now, I have to double check it. But yeah, layers, everything that can be in a draw list right now is draw items or draw commands, draw a line, things like that, and layers. And the draw items can belong to layers. may have to double check, but we need to make sure that layers can belong to layers. So then, yeah, you'd get that accumulated transform. So yeah, it would be hierarchical, however you say that. Ooh, what just happened there?
Ugh, the sun's coming out. I need to close my window.
For some reason when I ran just now, it showed up as modified GUI. That doesn't make sense. I did not try to modify that. Why is that modified? Oh, that's fine. We're not distracting us. It's actually better that we're talking rather than just being completely quiet, or else the stream's boring for people.
Yeah, it's a fun conversation too, because it's like, it helped.
What's the git command again to just revert a single file?
Get help.
For real.
No, yeah. Get revert help. You should be able to.
I don't want to. It's not revert. That's the wrong word. Undo working copy modifications.
I'll tell you what it is. You could amend a commit if you wanted to. But converting a single file.
Guess I can do. It says I can redo the just do git checkout and 1B435AE3. See if that worked. No. So why is it showing up as modified? Here's what I'm gonna do. Just gonna delete them and pull them back in. I don't think I changed anything in here. That's why I'm so confused. Unless I accidentally did something. Anybody off the top of their head remember how to git checkout? All right, let's see. Check out. And then the file. So I'm GUI.h. Oh, that worked. That's interesting. Let's try the other. I still don't know what changed. I wish I could see that. That one didn't work. But again, I don't actually know. That one I'm just going to delete. It's version 0.5.5. So I'll just go in here, delete, and I'll just do git submodule, update, update, init, cursive. There we go. Make sure it still works. And I'll be right back. Gonna go get a Red Bull. Who is not sponsoring us, but should. If you want to pull in, Preston, I just did all those changes to the callbacks and stuff. Next is pulling out the logger, I believe.
I am so confused right now. I have an int member, and I'm literally adding one to it. And Visual Studio is just throwing a fit, saying I can't add an 8 byte to a 4 byte. They're both ints.
It's inside of an index that's happening, right? Like you're trying to index into something and you're doing that?
No. Reserving a vector size. So the argument should be size t, right? Which is just like an int.
Well, it depends on the platform, but yeah.
Well, like that's not even the issue. Like I can't just add one to it's segments. It's a number of segments in a polygon. I can't just add one to it. I don't know. It's trying to fit.
If you want to share your screen, I can look.
Yeah, this is a very dumb mistake. It's going to be a waste of like 5 minutes.
This will start the demo.
What's up, dude?
What? Oh, you
Tell me
sharing?
your screen.
Okay, my bad.
Sure.
I know you were ready. I don't know if this is going to freak out Discord.
This is when your internet crashes.
And what is it
All right, it's gonna
saying?
throw.
What's the error?
Sorry, it's gonna throw a fit error. I gotta run it. Let it actually do the thing.
When you close, or when's it?
What? There.
Just a warning.
Yeah, but why? Like they're both ends.
Using blah 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 on a 4-byte value and then casting the result to an 8-byte value. Hover reserve. What's it expect? Size underscore t. Is that a long or something? Like what is the on Windows?
I mean, this is what.
Oh, you have it pulled up. Well, no, go to reserve. Don't even.
He does this. Right there. It's an int, an int, and an int.
Go back to where you're calling reserve.
Oh, his reserve is an int.
Well, go back to where you're calling reserve though.
Must have overrode it or something. I need to.
You're not calling his reserve. You're calling your own reserve. The vector.
Yeah,
You're
I'm just calling
the
a
standard
vector's
one.
reserve.
That's what I'm saying. Look at what the size, or look at what the underlying type of size t is.
Yeah, it's gonna be this.
It looks like it's 8 bytes, whatever that is. So
2 floats. That makes sense.
no, that's ours. It's part of
Yeah.
vector. Like right click reserve.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Go to reserve and see what it is, or not even that. It's size t. We already know that, but I would go see what size t is on your system. Here, I'll just look it up. It's platform specific, I'm pretty sure. Where is it at?
You know what? End of story.
Actually, I'm using size of. Let me just go check. How do I stop watching the stream? Let me just go find size of real quick so I can just tell you.
It's on long.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm looking at right now. I think the one it's using is this, which is 64 bits, which is 8 bytes, and an int is only 4 bytes. So that's why you're getting that.
Weird. Whenever I go look at anybody else's, or you go look at the C++ tutorials for reserve, they just say you can put an int value in.
I mean, you can. It's not throwing an error. It's just throwing a warning.
So just ignore it. I just don't like warnings.
All right, so I need to remake the logger. I really think about just making it a class. Probably end up doing that. I don't know if people are gonna like it, but the only way that I would want to rewrite this is by making it like an actual class. But that's the best way to do it, to be honest. I think if there's gonna be an issue with that. I don't know if we need to so we'll just have to do. Trying to decide how I want to go about recreating the logger inside of the Python side. I'm trying to think of the best way to handle the log levels. You could as in like if I want to recreate the same exact one we have, let me show you this. It's really easy if storing. I'm more worried about memory. That's the part I'm trying to figure out is if the log levels at some higher level info and someone tries to log trace, do we just completely ignore the fact that they're doing that, or do we go ahead and still store it? And then if they set the log level lower, it'll start to show previous logs, or do we only keep up with logs that were logged at that moment at that level, if that makes sense? Because the issue is if you store all of them. Yeah, so just keep the logs that, like, basically completely disregard any logs that were logged below the current level. That would make things easier. Yeah, so let's do that. That's a good idea. That's the right idea. So other than that, everything else should be about the same. Like, same process. We could always make it more advanced later. Need that bigger. Let's do something similar. Been a while since I've written straight Python. And there is one thing we're not able to do that that the other one's able to do. So we're gonna have to split up our loggers. We're not able to do both a filtering logger and a clipping logger. So all in one. So we should split them to make it a little bit simpler. And the logger with filter, let's say. For now, let's just make that the default. We'll do a clipping later. They're gonna be roughly the same. Keep up with. Forgot. Here. Underscore is private for Python, right? That is the convention. Why am I writing semicolons? Jeez, I haven't had a Python way too long. And other than that, don't need any of this. Log levels. All of that should be. Yeah, should be good. We should probably have those too. No, for now I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna keep it as simple as possible and add the options as we go. So, how do you do the? I can't remember in Python how you do the I'd rather use enums for this. Is this only in Python 3.0? Okay, new 3.4. Okay. Yeah, for now we'll come back. Again, that doesn't need to slow us down. Otherwise, yeah, switching between languages always takes a little getting used to it first. At least for me. We're going to do log. Again, for now, I'm gonna do everything explicit. What else would we need? I think we currently have. Yeah. so nice switching to Python now. Not gonna lie. So much, I don't want to say easier, but just much nicer. Technically, this can act as a demo as well. Let's say if you want to see how to use the clipper and the filter, you could just go here. So we have log debug, info. And for anybody watching, I am not a Python guru. So if I'm doing something that is just completely unconventional, or I'm not using the newest shiny feature of Python, just let me know. Chances are I'll probably still ignore it, but if it's something good, I will use it. Because I know there's like a lot of little tricks you can do with Python, but to me sometimes it just makes things unreadable. Like a lot of the stuff people do with lists, sometimes it just looks unreadable to me. So I try to write things as clear as possible. And I know the other ones are supposed to be faster. I mean, usually you would do that for performance, but for me, I wouldn't even be in Python if I was concerned about the performance part of it. So I typically try to write things pretty simple. Hopefully that makes sense. Don't care about log level. For now, let's just, it doesn't need to be private. I think that is probably about it. Yeah, well, that's one of the things. Yeah, log level. If I go up to, yeah, I'm gonna come back and protect this thing and make it check for things if that's what you're asking about, keeping people from going to a certain log level. And I know you can use I forgot what they're called in Python, not getters and setters, but forgot you know what I'm talking about, where you have, it's one of the, what is that thing called? It's a decorator. I just don't remember which one it was. If that's what you're referring to, preventing people from being able to set the log level through the member to something else outside the range that we want. Yeah, sorry. Don't know all the terminology here, but I do know what you're talking about. We're going to do submit. Ooh, this will actually be a good demo to use the staging, the new staging system we have. So what else do we want? Again, I'm actually going to make that an option later. That's what we're going to do. Staging container. I have to remember how to use that, but that's what we're going to do. Then what we will do is we are less than the log level, we'll just return. we are greater than if, actually this doesn't need to be empty. This needs to be dg dot so we got our staging container. And let's give it a window as well. Actually, scratch that. The staging container. We'll create the window on the fly. So when we submit, at that moment we will actually we need a child as well. So when we submit, we'll actually get our window. Yeah, these are new features, by the way. So that's, and because we haven't demoed them, I'm having to remember how they work. But today is about testing features and demos and all that. So technically, the logger is its own demo. Add window. For now, we'll just that's it for now. We'll also go ahead and I don't think we're going to need the window again, but might as well leave that. Oh, wait. Staging. Can staging take a window? No, a window is its own. That's right. So, unfortunately, I don't actually need to use the staging feature for this. Staging feature is really beneficial if you're trying to wrap up a bunch of widgets that aren't roots to begin with. If for some reason you made this widget that's actually a composite of, I don't know, it's a child window that has 3 buttons and a whatever in it, or some type of dialogue, you would use the staging thing, so you don't have to actually put it anywhere. You'll see. We'll do a demo of it, but the logger doesn't need to use that because it is it is a window, so it is a root. All you gotta do is just not hide it, and you can create it at any time. But yeah, so staging solves the issue of if you are, it solves the issue of if you don't have a root container to put the thing in yet. You want to create the item, configure it, do whatever you want, but you aren't ready to place it. That's what the staging is for. So, you'll see. We'll definitely demonstrate it. Yeah. back. Don't even need to submit anymore. The whole reason for submit, that would have been an older in 0.6 how you'd have to do things. You'd have to store all the info and then when it's actually time, create the items versus now with 0.7 you don't have to do that because of staging. But again, you don't even need staging here. Let's see what else. It's actually be an opportunity to test out the styling system too, because I want to be able to color things. Oh. I swear, my dog does not stop barking. Anybody want a dog? No, that's not right. Auto size, that's what we're looking for. an error. You still there, Preston? My mic on? Yeah. You still there? What in tarnation? I didn't even change anything. Okay, why am I not getting any type of trace back? Oh, I am. Has no attribute. Log level. If the level is less than the log level, return. Okay. Seems legit. Let's look at our old one. Let's see if we can match the colors. Actually, I could just go to it and get the colors. And where are our themes? Just to remember how to set theme color. Trace is green. Debug was my calculator. $64. 120. You think it should be yellow? What's the RGB values for yellow? And I'll add that instead. Warning should be yellow, yeah. What are the RGB values for that again? Just red and green. I think I should have known that. Yep. Air will be red. It'll actually end up being an off. I don't think it'd be a pure red. Oh, we have it as pure red. Critical too, but I want to probably change the background or something on that one. Just gotta remember the keyword now for. Item. That's the keyword I'm looking for. I need to figure out why it's taking so long in debug to start up. Had a few more tabs. Now, once I push this up, I assume because it's Python now, people will probably update the hell out of it and probably do things better. So, also color some words in the logger. Yeah, you can do all of that. I'm just trying to get back the logger we used to have on the Python side. That way, I can pull all of it out. And then we can spend all day adding features. Because I was going to say, you mentioned coloring like certain words. You could definitely do that. Another thing I thought would be cool is once I add the filter up top. Right now, you can filter. You can filter the words or whatever. You could technically. This doesn't even have to be a line of text. It could be a text, a button, and then a line. And then that button, like for instance, trace could actually be a clickable thing. And then when you click it, it would filter all the trace items. Like you could, there's so much you could do now. Yeah, well, I agree. And that's part of why we moved it to Python, because we wanted to be able to use some of those features. Because on the C++ side, I wasn't sure how we would handle that. Like, if you've used a library like SBD Logger, which we use internally in DPG, they have a whole. You could do the same format strings, but you can also do. You can also just do. What was I saying? There's also like special keywords you could put inside the format message that would be things like time or frame or which thread it's ran on and things like that. And we were going to expose all that, but then we just figured Python probably offers more, so it'd be better just to let them completely create their own logger in Python. Like we'll create a basic one and keep improving it, but for the most part, if people want really fancy stuff, they just copy our logger and modify it. So now I need to add filter. I mean, you could add pictures. I mean, you can literally add any widget you want. But now we need to add the clipper. Or not the clipper. This is going to be the filter one. And how do we want to do that? So what we'll do is we'll add instead of the child ID, we'll go ahead and add a filter set. I want it to be called filter, but that's actually a keyword, or it's a built-in function in Python, so I thought it'd be confusing. That's it. I don't think there's any options. And now instead of adding all of these to the child, we'll add them to filter set. And then we'll add the filter set to the child. If you remember, the filter set is not it's a complete pass-through object. It doesn't do anything graphically. So items are still going to respond like as if they're in a child. So what I just did shouldn't mess anything up. Child ID. Filter function. Yeah, the filter. I don't know if you just got on, but the whole point of the filtering is to we're offering some of the stuff that made our built-in logger so efficient. And we figured you guys could build your own logger and also, kind of like we're doing, and also it could be used in anywhere you're wanting to add some type of filtering functionality. And we need to make all of these items, we need to give them a filter key. The filter key is going to be the actual message itself so that you can filter based on that. And then now you need some type of widget to change what's being filtered. So we're going to add just an input text box like we used to have. Where am I doing that? There we go. Well, yeah, the thing that makes this filter, this isn't like a typical filtering function. Because this is immediate mode underneath, and every single frame, 60 times a second, you're resubmitting all of the items to be rendered. What makes this filter thing unique is what it does is when it gets to that item, it just doesn't even attempt to process it at all. So and because you're already having to go to every item, usually filtering would cost something. This is free. Same thing with the clipper. The clipper, which I'm going to use in a second, huge performance booster. I'll have to check. There's a few things you can filter with. You can add, subtract, and I think you can use we'll have to check. Again, this is a wrapping around GUI's filtering system, so I'll double check that you can use wildcards. So what's happening here is it Python? Yeah, today most of what we're doing today is writing the demo, testing, documentation, things like that. So it's mostly going to be Python, and only jump into C++ to see how to do a few things and also to fix things, because we're going to find bugs doing this. So right now what we're doing is recreating the logger on the Python side, because we exposed a bunch of stuff that should make the Python logger just as fast as the built-in one. So we're going to simplify things and get rid of the built-in one. And we're going to add a it'll be built in, but it won't be built into the C++ side. So anyway, the filtering widget or container is it has a value just like input text or anything else, but its value is what it filters based off of. So to make it work, you, in a different widget, you could do whatever you want to do. In this case, I'm using input text, and every time it changes, it sets the value of the filter to whatever's inside of the input text, and it'll filter. And then to filter items, it doesn't have to be text items. It could be any item you want. It could be plots, but it needs some value to compare against, and that's where all the widgets now have a optional keyword filter key, and that's what the filter will use to compare against. So in this case, we're filtering based on the message itself. Yeah. And then we're going to add this to the window. And again, for people watching, I am not a Python programmer. Not a programmer at all, actually. So probably be doing pretty simple stuff on the Python side. Let's see if that worked. Has no attribute. Oh, I see. We need to add this to the filter ID. Oh yeah, the whole demo is being rewritten, and we're gonna add a ton of comments to it. I mean, we didn't want to do that last time because we didn't want to spend that much time. We didn't want to spend that much time when we knew the API would be changing, but now that it's not, it's worth commenting and doing things properly, because it's not going to change, so it'll last. Anyway, you get the point. Try to add this to the window. Why did that not get added? Get rid of these. And let's show. Yep. Well, hopefully now that we're recreating several widgets on the Python side that used to be on the C++ side, people will also use that, because we're recreating, like I said, this logger. We're actually recreating the simple table API. So that used to be on the C, and we haven't done that yet, but it used to be on the C++ side, and now we've moved it out because it'd be more power doing it the other way, and it'll be easier to maintain. A new one, context. Oh, you're talking about new module? Yeah, some of these modules are temporary though. Right now we split the demo up into several, but that's just so that'd be easier for us to work on them separately, and then at the end, before we release 07, combine them back. But yeah, context, it's not just going to be core and simple. Actually, I don't even want simple anymore. I want to call it something else. We just don't know what yet. But core is definitely going to stay. Context is going to stay, which is where all the context manager versions are. And then, like I said, simple, still simple, but we're going to get rid of it and call it something else. Or to be honest, maybe simple is a good way to put it now. Okay, let's see if that worked. Alright, this is bothering me that it's taking that long. I have to figure that out. The job of simple is things like, well, I think I said it the other day, but now that 07 is going to be a lot more, the core, specifically talking about the core module, is a lot more explicit, a lot more advanced, and does less for you than it used to. We used to try to handle a lot of stuff for you guys, but now instead we're going the opposite direction and trying to make core basically as powerful as we can and as explicit as possible. So the simple API is going to serve an even more purpose than it did before. The API was already simple to begin with in 06, but with 07, with things getting more advanced, simple is going to do a lot more. So for example, 06, when you wanted to add a plot, you added a plot, and that was it. 07, if you want to add a plot, you have to add a plot, you have to add an axis, y-axis, and then you have to add a, if you want a legend, you have to add a legend. So rather than beginners having to think of that stuff, in simple, you could just make a little wrapping that creates the plot, creates the legend, and creates the axis for you and stuff like that. So simple will just take those things that used to be one step that are now 10 steps and make them back one step, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a wrapper. So here you can see the filtering. So see, that's how the filter widget works. This is just a regular. Well, that's the thing. I don't know if you want to call it wrapper, because technically every one of these modules is a wrapper. No, 07 is gonna, with the simple wrappings, will look very similar to 06. So I wouldn't call it the new simple, but simple will probably try to closer emulate 0.6. But yeah, the true, I assume, is a wrapper. And that's the issue. We thought about calling it wrapper, but then we realized everything is a wrapper around core. And that's why some users, like Jovex, doesn't even want to use any of that. He just wants to use core, and he just creates his own wrapping, which is fine. That's one of the reasons we have it this way and have the core so explicit, is because if you don't like our wrappings or our simple wrappings, go make your own. You can. And then, yeah. And that's part of a lot of these advanced features that we haven't even demoed yet, like the staging system and stuff like that. Really is less for the end user. It's for people wanting to wrap our API to make their own. Like we added a whole bunch of helper functions and helper systems to help with people trying to wrap it. Yeah, those core will stay the same. It'll have a lot more. Actually, it'll probably have less functions, but yeah. But there will be more than just a simple API page. There'll be a page for all of these things.
Dude, you know it's crazy.
So then, what's up?
Our mvec2 has never had a comparison operator.
Mm-hmm. I think because I stopped using it, I went back to using mvec2. The mvec2 was there for when we thought we were going to abstract away mGUI.
Huh. Oh, well, I'll go back to using mvec.
Yeah.
Me.
But for anybody that was watching the filter thing, this is just a regular input box that type something. It just sets the value of the filter equal to whatever's inside of here, and that's literally how it works. So really easy. Let me see something else. Preston scared you. Why did Preston scare you?
Didn't know I was here. I haven't said anything in a while.
Yeah, I asked if you were here like 3 or 4 times and you didn't answer.
I was away for a second.
Yeah, it looks like it's case insensitive. Oh wait, no, never mind. Maybe not. Yeah, it's case insensitive. Yep. Preston's the voice of DPG and I'm just the face. So now we can handle auto scrolling. So this will be a good test of the scrolling API. You said you have the face to be on television, but not the mind. Thanks.
No. The other way around, most definitely.
Okay, so what do we need? I've almost recreated this freaking logger. Which is surprising how quick it took, because that logger took like a week to freaking write. Like to get it working how we want it, and like now I can write it in Python in less than an hour because of all the stuff we exposed. So we need clear, a copy, and an auto scroll.
Einbeck 2 doesn't even have a comparison operator, so actually this is dumb.
Yeah. That is exactly what it does. But I don't know how I'm going to do that. Maybe that's something we need to expose, or we just tell Python people they need to handle it, which in our case is us now, so we'll have to handle that.
We should have a system that checks to, instead of handle like and everything we do, we handle dirty flags. We handle dirty flags by remembering the old data to compare it to the new data. Well, why not just check to see if they've added, check to see if they've done a keyword. Like keywords are inputted every frame, but why don't we have something that just like automatically flips a dirty flag for the for that item if it the keyword was used or changed or something?
We do have that.
No, because when you do handled specific arguments, it comes in and just like you can't do it in there either because technically the keywords are submitted every frame, correct?
Like that function? No, that function's only ran when you create the item and if you use configure item.
Oh, that's right. I know what I'm doing wrong now.
But some of them have multiple dirty flags, so it's...
No, you're right. You're right. It's fine.
What did we call the old auto scroll?
But now that we have the handle specific keyword args, it actually is nice because you can just flip different flags dirty based off the keywords coming in instead of having to like compare data.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what am I looking for? .7 add the label position. Am I right? There was today again. Label like left or right? Are you talking about? Where are you talking about? You talking about inside of the logger? Right here? Yeah, that's definitely not the way to do it. Like I said, the first thing I was doing is just trying to simply replicate the functionality of the old one, and then I come back. There's a lot of stuff that can be optimized here. And again, I'd like to add the ability to add as many levels as you want, all of that. But I was just keeping it simple for a moment, just to make sure I could get everything working. That's what I said. I'm not. Do they have switches in Python? I thought they didn't. Or at least not in all the versions. I mean, yeah, you can make your own, but do they actually have one? That's what I thought. I thought a newer version was supposed to actually have one, but we have to support all the way back to 3.6. So, again, I told you guys I'm not a Python programmer. And I try to typically write things, if I'm writing in Python, I try to write it as simple as possible to follow. Because when I'm constantly switching between different languages, if I'm looking at Python's list comprehension stuff and then I switch to C, they're not even remotely similar. So I try to, even though I know they're, again, I already said this on the stream, but I know they're better performance with a lot of that stuff. But again, if I'm in Python, I'm usually not concerned with performance. So. Yeah. Yeah. Again, hopefully my idea here is that when I submit this thing when I commit this thing having the minimal features, I mean, not minimal features, but just the features that we used to have. And now that it's written in Python, I would hope people would take it and improve the hell out of it and submit pull request, since now it's written in Python, which is the language that the people use in DPG. Yeah. And by me writing this, you can also see the features, the new features in 0.7 that, allow for this widget to work. So like I said, in 0.6 you couldn't do it because of performance issues. For auto scroll, clear copy. So hopefully it won't be too much longer and I'll push it up. But again, we still are changing things over the next few days. So. But yeah, now that we have control over scrolling, control over the clipper, and control over the filtering system, you can make your own logger. Actually, I think it's supposed to be none. Is it child only? What is it? Now, is that switch statement actually that they're introducing? Is it just syntactic sugar on top of whatever, or does it actually make a performance difference? Children only was the keyword I was looking for. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, we need to do the auto scroll. Need to modify the scroll stuff real quick. So what we're gonna do. Right, so we need the ability to get the scroll position, get the scroll, get the max, and yeah, set it. Get max, get set. Okay, so 3 functions. Let's see. Yeah, I'm okay with that one. No man. Scroll that shit down. Let's see what else. Okay. Let's scroll is going to be float. Yet.
Dude, did you know? Do you remember Thomas?
Yeah.
From LSU.
Yep.
He lives. He just. He lived in the Woodland, Kingwood for a while. He just bought a house in the Woodlands.
Nice. So we got our set scrolls, get scrolls, and we need get scroll max. Let's see. Is the parser args for like a command line interface? No. Let's see. All of these. This does several things. This sorry, little system we wrote. This I can't hardly explain what all it does anymore, but this registers them. It automatically builds the documentation for them. It handles the Python to C bindings. It handles default values. It handles stub file generation. It handles, like I said, the built-in docs. I mean, it handles a whole bunch of stuff. It does a lot of error checking and stuff for us. Let's see. Yeah, it'll verify like when it actually comes time to pass the arguments, if all the required arguments are there, positional arguments, all of that stuff. And it actually helps with the text editor when we get to that, because it'll highlight these and things like that. So yeah, it's kind of our own system we've created, because we didn't want to use PyBind. We didn't want to add another dependency. So we try not to have hardly any dependencies if we can get by without it. Even the add like widget commands is automatically done entirely. These extra commands that I'm adding now, you still have to tell them what they need to do, but normally you wouldn't have to. Whole bunch of template meta magic going on with some of these.
Whole library.
What?
That's our whole library.
Yeah, right now our whole library is a lot of templates and a lot of which is annoying, and a lot of macros that we're going to remove. Just haven't done so yet.
Don't like Visual Studio's new thing.
Which new thing?
Like, it's hard to find the manage branches for Git, like their Git control. I used to use a right-click manage branches all the time, but it's gone now.
You have to actually right click on the branch. It's not like the drop down. You have to actually look at the branch and hit right click if I remember right.
Yeah, to merge and stuff.
Oh, item. Again, we got to go back and actually do all these warning messages properly. They're really just placeholders right now. The and.
Alright, I'm pushing up ellipse.
Okay. Did you pull in everything I already did?
Yep. I pulled up until just now. Whatever. I'll see, what did it do? Okay, yeah. That polyline. Bezier curve.
Split ours into two, you mean?
Yes, that's what it was. All right.
Let's see. Wait, I don't need that. Might as well do this like this. Yeah, it is pretty creepy. I didn't pick any of these songs, by the way. This is Preston, so I think this is his workout playlist. Is that correct, Preston? Okay. So we need the Y's. Make sure I set the return types properly. Okay, that's right.
I went ahead and ate, so I don't have to eat. I need to remove that from configures. Yeah, I just hack these into the configure items just to kind of test things, but it does not need to be that way.
warnings bother me. Okay, so that's reworked a little bit, so now we should be able to actually use this properly. So if we want to go to the bottom, we just need to set the scroll to the max. Yeah, that would be auto scrolling. Can you do that? Can you do assignment inside of a lambda? Isn't that an issue in Python or something? Guess we can just find out. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think you could. Unless I'm missing something, I don't think you could do that. I'm gonna assume you can't. Someone can correct me if they want. I wonder why you can't do assignments inside of lambdas in Python. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that that doesn't cause any, it doesn't throw any warnings or anything. All right. So if auto scroll is on, yeah. Again, I wonder what the reasoning for that is. Yeah, but why? That's the only thing I don't understand. Why can't you do assignment inside of it? Feels like you should be able to.
So, all right. So the difference in this is a little bit off topic from what you're saying, but the difference in IMGUI between add circle and add ngon is ngon's guaranteed to honor the number of segments you give it, whereas circle sometimes will do different things depending on what the number of segments you give circle.
Interesting.
So if you give circle 3 segments, it may do something weird.
Okay. Need some buttons to add a lot more logging. Don't need that. We need the ability to unlock and lock the mutex in groups, because I just realized when you go log a bunch of messages, it's going to lock the mutex for every single one. So that's about to have to be done, because this is going to be slow. That's a big change too. Yeah, let's add another button. Change the log level. That's right, can't do assignment. That sucks.
Do it again. I bet it works a third time.
What are you talking about?
Oh, I just meant like you're gonna keep trying it.
Logger also log to the console. You could just make that an option. Just change it from, instead of adding to the adding text widgets to whatever, you could just have it just do print. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
wonder if anyone ever is gonna complain that our circle, the default segments is like 1, 2, 3, 5, so it comes out as like a pentagon, and like the default for our ellipse is 3, so it's gonna come out as a triangle. So they're gonna see a triangle when you draw ellipse. That's funny, unless we change the defaults. What do you think?
I wasn't listening. What'd you say?
I said it's gonna be funny that when someone draws a circle, it comes out with 5 sides. So it comes out as a pentagon, and if someone draws an ellipse, it comes out with 3 sides. So it's gonna come out as a triangle.
Wait, that's the default?
Yeah, the default is 3, so it's gonna come out as a triangle, and the same thing for circle. The default is 5, so it's gonna come out as a pentagon.
Shouldn't the default be 0 so that it auto figures it out?
It is 0.
You just said the default was 3.
There's no such thing as auto figuring it out for us, for because we're drawing the ellipse.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not talking about for the ellipse. I'm talking about for the circle.
For the circle, it's 0, but it comes out as 5. I guess that may be a bug. I go dig into it, see why.
Yeah, because up to this point, it shouldn't have been coming out at 5.
Right, Dutch circle.
See what happens if I run the demo right now.
Do it. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, it looks like more than 5 segments on mine.
Dude, I did not touch circle. Maybe touch the demo. Let's see. Demo list.
Yeah, because 5 would look like that. Looks like I just drew a bolt.
This is gonna be a new bug.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
So I did one with 5, and then I did what the default is.
No, this is going to be a. It's because whenever I added ellipse, we had I added jeez.
How many times can you say
So the way you did the demo draw list, you did global circle group and threw it in G, and then you did it as a context group, and then inside the group you made seg input. So get value segment input. It must be using like the same widget, but showing different widgets. Like the values must be like tied or something like that.
If you're changing the global segment settings, then yeah, it would have.
Yeah, but 2 different widgets are showing up. Just grabbing the wrong one.
I don't know, man.
It's a Python deal is all I'm trying to say. I think. Yeah, that's interesting.
If I did something different for window and child. Damn it, I'm in release. Color with this constant already exist. That's interesting. Alright. Am I doing something wrong here? So we get the item, we found the item, we check if it's a container or it's the correct type. It is the correct type. We add the color, and then we invalidate the cache. The color exists. I don't think we should be asserting there. Actually, I know for a fact we should not be. That was a mistake. That's what I expected. See, that slow watching it add live like that is because of the mutex locking situation, where it's taking multiple frames to perform that command or that callback, because that callback is calling 100 DPG commands, and that mutex is shared with the rendering thread and the Python callback thread, whatever you want to call that. So we came up with solutions to deal with that for things like the table and stuff like that, but we haven't came up with a solution for adding widgets. So we might just have to bite the bullet and just go back and give control over the mutex, because this seems to be a recurring pattern. It's only an issue if you're trying to log in the same callback a bunch of times. We'll see. Let me just see what it would take to do the mutex situation. But either way, that's a separate issue. That time it looked like it worked. Close, but not quite. Still not hitting all of them. I wonder if I have to add in the how did our old logger work? Pretty sure our old logger worked properly. Can always just track the last item. No, that'd be Band-Aid. How are we implementing this? How's everyone doing? I know it's probably getting a little boring now. Should we be setting the scroll before we draw? How did we used to do it? No, we did the scroll at the end. Which makes sense. Alright guys, I am about to take my lunch break. So, I'll see you guys when we get back. After that, it's about an hour. So, see you guys after. Bye. Thanks. Hope you enjoy your dinner, whatever time it is over there.